many of us faculty are aware of, many of us faculty and the employers are aware of the situation that employers are facing, that the new nurses are not well prepared. And the background of this, my study, is essentially on how do we evaluate our students that are going into the world of work. How do we know that they are ready to go into the world of work? Because there are certain skills that new nurses are supposed to have before they come to the world of work. Do your students have that? What methods of assessment do you use to ensure that they get what they're supposed to get? Teaching them is one thing, but assessing that they learn it is another. So the background of this study is essentially to find out what are schools doing and how is it working for them. So based on this background, I wanted to find, because naturally or traditionally we know that our method of assessing student clinical competencies is very subjective. You take students to clinical, you observe what they do, and most often we pass them. But how do we really, and most often in the laboratory, we teach them certain skills. But then how do we test those skills? We pick some to test on because we don't have the resources that is needed. And then when you are grading them on those skills that you taught them, it's also subjective. So I took this opportunity to find out about what we can do about assessing these students objectively, so that the grade I gave to A is not necessarily different from the grade I gave to B, because A picked a skill that he or she can do easily, and B was unfortunate to pick a skill that nobody wants to pick. So based on this background, I tried to find a school, a nursing program in Maryland that is using objective structural clinical examination. The OSCE, many faculty abbreviate and call it as OSCE. So I'll be using the phrase OSCE for my objective clinical examination. So the contest, as I said, the contest is in a public baccalaureate nursing program in Maryland. And the idea is, because I really looked for schools that are doing this. And out of the many schools I looked at, only one school in Maryland is doing this objective structural clinical examination. When I first thought about using these schools, my colleagues said, oh, this school is well established. They have the state of the art, but they don't. So the idea, I wanted to find out, how come they're able to do what other schools are not doing? And to do this, I went in to interview their faculty. And what I had in mind was to find out their current OSCE practices, to identify any barrier that they have, and then to find out whatever barrier they have, how are they able to do what they're doing? What strategies are they able, do they use to do what they're doing? And my study framework, I use the Lewin's theory. Of course, changing, and we know that nurses, when we believe that we know what we are doing, it's difficult to get us to do otherwise. So I use the Lewin's theory of plan change. Essentially, I use the unfreezing stage, whereby you have to, first of all, see that what you are doing is not working, and then think about what you are going to do to make it better. Along with the Lewin's theory, in interviewing the faculty, I also use the 6 thinking hats, Because the faculty I'm interviewing, I wanted them to. The 6 thinking hats, of course, we know, is a metaphor for the thinking that the person is having when you are interviewing them. Of course, the white hat is to think about the fact. What is the fact about this process? The red hat is about your feelings. Do you like what you're doing? What do you feel about it? Yellow hat is for the advantages of what you are doing. Black hat is for the disadvantages. The green hat is for new ideas or suggestions. And then the blue hat is for process collaboration for improvement. So I used the Lewin's theory of change with the 6 thinking hats to interview the 10 faculty that I selected in this program that is using the OSCE. And I used the descriptive phenomenology. And my sampling method was snowball purposive sampling. So I collected data from these 10 faculty through semi-structured, audio-recorded, individual face-to-face method. And the interview was recorded and transcribed, and I used the Colaxi descriptive method to analyze my data. And this is what they said. They provided general information on how they do OSCE. They said that they do it in their clinical courses. And one of the faculty mentioned essentially that in the advantage of it, she said, when a group of students are leaving my course and going to the next course, I have to be sure that they know ABCD. And if we go into the examination and this person is doing, let's say, how to hang a primary IV, because that's what she picked and it's easier. How do I know that she can correctly insert a Foley? And then the person, some students don't like to get trach suctioning, but if the person that got trach suctioning knows how to do it, how am I sure she knows how to hang blood, and so on and so forth? So this particular faculty hinted on that the OSCE method helps them for everybody to do the same skill in the examination, unlike the idea of picking from the hat that many of us do. But then, there are barriers. Essentially, the most overarching barrier is it's so resource intensive. Essentially, the money involved, the faculty involved, because in doing this OSCE, for people that are not familiar with it, is the same thing we do in professional practice, whereby every year we have a competency fair. And nurses go through every station to make sure that they remember these skills. So if this is required of nurses, how come when we teach the students that will come on the floor, we make them do some and don't do the others? Now, so they mentioned that OSCE itself has its own problems because you have to have the equipment, you have to have the number of faculty to man each station. The faculty are already overwhelmed with the workload, and then telling them to do this again is a problem for them. But my intention is to shed light into this so that we can have an idea of how to go about the barriers. So, this is what the school said they're using, and that is how they're able to do it when others are not. They have administrative and technical support. Most often, you know, our nursing program is housed under a parent institution, and nursing is expensive. We are expensive. We bring in the money, but we are also expensive to run. So the idea is, how do we have to get our administration to support us and provide us what is needed. To man the different stations, they are using their clinical instructors. They are using their teaching assistants. Because it will not be easy in every course where you have to do this OSCE to find people to man those stations. And then the faculty need to be educated on OSCE. We have to have faculty buy-in, because for any change to occur, you have to convince the faculty that this is necessary. They have to do this with the end in mind. And then, when they are not able to test them on all the skills, they make sure that they test them on the skills that are essential for practice. I don't really think there are skills that are not essential for practice, but then they kind of do the ones that necessarily need or must to know, not necessarily good to know. So the question here is, OSCE is very expensive. OSCE, or when I'm saying OSCE, I'm also talking about any other objective method of evaluating student competencies, because it's not only OSCE. And for the record, OSCE is a medical model. And there is a nursing model, the COPA model by Lensburg. The COPA model is Competency Objective Performance Assessment, and that is a nursing model. But whatever model your program chooses to use, the idea is to make it objective. So the objective method is a challenge, but it should not negate its usefulness. So the idea of this is because we have to be able to bridge the world of education and practice, so that the students we are producing will be ready for the world of work. So the idea is that I believe that schools that are using OSCE or other methods of objective evaluation will look at what they're doing and see what is working and what is not working. Schools that are not using objective method may utilize what this school is doing and start it in a small scale, because whatever scale you are doing is better than not doing it at all. Thank you.
What was that nursing model called?
The COPA model. C-O-P-A. Competency Outcome Lensburg. Lensburg.
E-U-R-G.
Yes.